Everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's exclusive analysis. In today's video, we're discussing Tesla, NVIDIA, Intel, and some of the leading stocks and things that we're observing and noticing in the market. So starting with Tesla, obviously everyone is frothing at the mouth to go long Tesla. You know, the amount of bulls that have been dumping Tesla over the last 24 months has been extreme. And you've obviously seen Tesla in a very, very strong downtrend. But perhaps we're now at an inflection point where Tesla's ready to break out. Maybe it's set to see some capital rotation out of semis or other related stocks. Maybe it's just time for Tesla to start pushing back and trying to sustain and reach that trillion-dollar status company. You've seen all the other mega caps starting to blister higher. No matter which you look at in mega cap tech land, most stocks have just been pushing higher with the QQQ all-time high after all-time high. And Tesla's really lagged. It's one of the stocks that have underperformed in the S&P for quite a long time, really since we've been putting in this high pivot all the way back in that huge 2021 blow-off move. Now the question is this an inverse head and shoulders in the making that could set up a very large move? Obviously, if we trigger this key neckline zone here, I'm going to do the measured move. If you break this little neckline off of this inverse head and shoulders, Tesla does set forth for a big and really strong move all the way up to about that 250, 252 and change. So I'm watching this pattern very, very carefully because it does suggest that there's likely some momentum that we could catch here on the long side. You've had positive news regarding Tesla shareholders taking Elon Musk voting his salary package and voting on that positively in favor of Musk, retaining him, making him happy, making him more motivated to keep pushing forth Tesla, to maybe try to 10x it or even 25x it like they've been discussing with him and Cathie Wood. But the question is, once we get this technical breakout, it is a potential for a very, very large short covering trend reversal bounce on Tesla. And we've certainly seen a lot of S&P 500 stocks and NASDAQ stocks, the ones that are oversold, get bid up in recent sessions. Now, what I'm also interested in, what makes this pattern maybe a little bit more likely to succeed, we're going to go both over the bullish and the bearish side. So keep in mind, charts always have two sides to a tail, and we have to look at both. So Tesla right now has not officially given us the bullish breakout. Although it's showing signs of life, it has not triggered the neckline. So even if this does break out, we have to look at where we are in the overall trend, where we are in the market, where interest rates are. There's a lot of intermarket analysis that we have to digest. But again, there's also a much larger technical pattern at play for Tesla. And what's really interesting, before we digest that larger technical pattern, when we actually look at what is unfolding in the overall markets, we are seeing a huge monumentous push in the S&P and QQQ NASDAQ related stocks. So why I think Tesla has a strong chance at a bull case here is because potentially, and I say potentially because anyone that's tried to call really a top in NVIDIA, basically the stock market's strongest stock, has kind of been wrong on all fronts. So why I'm saying there's potentially signs of a huge rotation trade into the name like Tesla is because you've seen NVIDIA supersede its valuation. Basically, when NVIDIA marked a low in 2021, that's when Tesla marked a high. So you've really seen a lot of that speculation capital chasing this leading name, pushing it higher and higher. And granted, it keeps coming on with revised upward growth, revision, and is catching this whole AI trade. Now, the thing about NVIDIA is the market was strong today, and you saw NVIDIA actually take a bit of a breather. So the importance of that is maybe, just maybe, there's some signs of weakness and sellers starting to take some profit in this name. And with that being said, this is a over $3 trillion company that has accrued trillions of market cap in a matter of months. So that being said, if this name sees 10, even a 20% correction, which kind of sounds outlandish considering its strength, where will that capital go? Oftentimes, most capital in the tech market doesn't leave the market unless there's some sort of a crisis. It just rotates, which is why you continue to see the indices pushing higher and higher in the near term. So if we see rotation out of NVIDIA, there's a strong chance if this starts to become a bullish reversal in Tesla and breaks out to the upside, that capital could rotate out of NVIDIA and start to chase Tesla in the near term. It's certainly looking like a better risk to reward ratio in my mind, just as a trade in the near term. So keep your eye on that bullish pattern. Now, let's erase the bullish pattern and outline some things on the weekly chart, because this is really a weekly chart that we need to dissect. Look at the resistance we're coming into. Pivot, pivot, huge breakdown zone, huge consolidation breakdown zone. Then you broke out here, back test, hit that support, bearish consolidation right here, and then you had a huge breakdown. So this is a big technical level on Tesla, massive resistance. And when we look at a couple other factors, keep in mind this is a very bearish chart that has really unfolded here. And what I mean by that is you've triggered a weekly head and shoulders pattern. Let's not forget that this is the primary pattern that is at play here. Whether you want to use this right shoulder or even this little right shoulder, there is a clear lower high downtrend. You've triggered a head and shoulders. There's potentially even a major one starting here. So we just have to be mindful that we're right at that neckline. So we're at an inflection point here for Tesla where if you get rejected on this neckline, there's still a huge downside potential in this name. And that's something you certainly have to take into account as an investor. Now, no one thinks Tesla can go back to 37. Not even I am planning for that downside. I'm not like I'm here taking puts or calling puts, but I'm just saying you need to outline both the bearish and bullish sides in both of the trades. So I'm watching Tesla very closely in the near term for a bit of a momentum long if we get that technical signal. We have not got it yet. Then you look at names like Intel. This is another name that potentially could see some capital rotate into it if we have capital rotate out of NVIDIA. So I'm looking at Intel, and actually, full disclosure, I do have a long trade in this one, but I'm looking at this one as almost a similar play to a lot of these names that were oversold in the S&P 500. Names like that are still producing strong quarterly earnings. Yes, it may not be the growth rate of, say, NVIDIA or the potential of an SMCI or ARM, but it's a company that has established itself. It's got a core business. It's proven itself year after year. And we really haven't seen sort of Intel announce any AI plans. And I do think they have something. It's just been thrown out with the bathwater here. So I think as we approach its earnings, this is a name that's probably going to see some accumulation. It's probably going to act like an Adobe on earnings. You know, you saw ADB, which our members were able to catch on the long side with a tremendous 95% win on the Adobe 500 calls and a beautiful 15% win on the long. But this was a name that just got beaten down. Earnings came, huge pop to the upside. Looked like it was a grinder going nowhere, and then out of nowhere, boom, huge breakout on the chart. Same thing happened to Tesla. These are quality S&P 500 stocks and NASDAQ stocks that were into earnings, very depressed, and they get a huge bid. You know, that's what I see happening in Intel here. I do think Intel is one of those names that can and likely has a strong probability of seeing a very strong upside move, at least to this gap fill, which is about 11.5% move to the upside. Now, if we look at the SPY, which is the S&P 500, I just want to show one key trend line. Not going to talk much about it, but let's just discuss what is going on here. Take a look at that key trend line. Pivot high to pivot high. We're now into that vicinity. Volume is starting to increase a little bit, and more importantly, the volume on, say, the NDX, so the NASDAQ, is also been increasing in this region, which is telling us that although it's pushing higher, there are some sellers starting to see some potential profit taking. So just be careful. Just be careful up here. That's all I can say. But at the same time, there's still a lot of quality names that I think are potentially due for a bit of a breakout, which are on watch, and a bit of a rotation trade in the near term. Hopefully you've all found this video helpful, and we'll see you on the charts a little bit later.